This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good morning, Rabbi Glatstein. Parshas Korach. Bruchim Abam to the Kol Agad Perka. The episode of Korach and his cohorts versus Moshe Rabbeinu. We know that Korach did not just take anybody to be on his side. Vayikach Korach. Korach was very selective in terms of who he brought to his side of the dispute. The pasuk says, in the beginning of the Parsha, the second pasuk, Vayakumu l'fnei Moshe. They got up before Moshe, Va'anashim min bnei Yisrael. Men from bnei Yisrael, Chamishim u'masayim, 250. Nesiei Eda, princes, Kriei Moyed, appointed, Anshe Shem, men of renown. Exactly what are these different accolades being heaped on the cohorts of Korach? Says Gemara in Sanhedrin, Daf Kuf Yudam and Aleph. Vayakumu l'fnei Moshe, Va'anashim min bnei Yisrael, Chamishim u'masayim. What does it mean, Mi B'nei Yisrael? Really? Mi B'nei Yisrael? Korach is going to take Italians on his side? Obviously they're B'nei Yisrael. So the Gemara says, and this is how the Marsha explains it, Miyuchadim Shave'eda. The most distinguished ones. The most prestigious ones. In other words, Korach did not get the slouchers on his side. The Erev Rav were on Moshe's side. Who was on Korach's side? The most prestigious. Kriei Moyed, summoned for appointment. Says the Gemara, Shahayu Yoidim la'aber shanim. They were Talmidei Chachamim. They knew how to make an Ibriyar. Ulukbaya Chadashim. They knew how to establish the months. Anshe Shem, men of renown. Shahaya Lahem Shem b'chal ha'olam, world famous, world recognized. Their name went Misayfa Olam Yad Sayfai. And the Be'er Yosef, Rabbi Yosef Tzvi Salant, one of the classic Svarim of Drush, one of the classic Svarim of Drush, where Rabbi Shlomo Zalman Auerbach was very fond of the Sefer Be'er Yosef. The Be'er Yosef says that, wait a second, I understand certain descriptions that the pasuk tells us. I understand why he took Miyuchadim Shaveida, the most distinguished ones, obviously to give himself more credibility. If he's going to take the chashuv of people, it looks better for his side. I understand why he took Anshe Shem, why he took men of renown, it looks better for his cause. But why dafka would he take people who knew how to make an Ibriyar, or knew how to be Koveya the month? I mean, who cares? Why specifically that proficiency? I mean, he didn't take people who knew how to paskin on an esrog. Right? He didn't take people who knew how to paskan on a mara. He didn't take people who knew dinei choshen mishpat. Why of all halachos was Korach interested in taking people who knew how to make an ibriyar and to be koveya the chadashim? That would seem to be completely unrelated to the type of person that Korach would need. It says the Be'er Yosef in number 2. Hinei ma she'amru b'gemar miyuchadim shebe'eda v'chein anshe shem. Move on Kipshuta, we understand it simply. It's telling you the clevery and the smarts of Korach, that he knew how to draw very smart people, distinguished people, prestigious people. But that feature that the Torah says he took, those who were summoned for appointment, they knew how to make Ibriyar, they knew how to make extra month, they knew how to establish the Chadashim, which is just a detail of their knowledge that would seem to be unrelated and not important to know in terms of this dispute. Okay, so that's the first question. Why do we need Yoidim la'aber shanim? Comes Moshe Rabbeinu in Pasuk Hey, Vayidaber al Korach v'al kol hadasoi leimar, Boiker in the morning, v'yoida Hashem asar shaloi, God will make known who belongs to Him. Be'as HaKadosh, and who's holy, v'hikravei. Fine. What does Moshe Rabbeinu mean in the morning? The morning, well, how about right now? Well, no, what are you waiting for? What's Moshe Rabbeinu going to do? He has to read up on some new information, right? How to deal with 100, right? Korach for dummies, when Moshe Rabbeinu needs to read up on something, what's he waiting till the morning for? Says Rashi, Umidrasha, Boiker, Amar Lehem Moshe. Moshe says to them, God made certain immutable boundaries in this world. Could you turn morning into night? could you turn night into morning? If you could make day night and vice versa, then you could challenge Aaron's appointment. Shenemar, you can't change morning and night. Vayerev, vayiboiker, vayavdel. Just like God separated between morning and night, also kach vayavdel Aaron lahakdishoy. Hashem separated Aaron. So just like you can't dispute day and night, you can't dispute the installation and appointment of Aaron. Why is Moshe Rabbeinu invoking day and night? Like, Moshe's arguing with Korach. Korach says, it was your idea to appoint Aaron. And Moshe Rabbeinu says, no! Just like day and night was God's idea, Aaron was God's idea. Why did Moshe Rabbeinu say, you believe in gravity? Right? Isaac Newton, he was under the tree, the apple hit him on the nose. Just like the apple falls down, and that Hashem Hashem appointed Aaron. Why didn't Moshe Rabbeinu say to Korach, you believe in photosynthesis? Yeah? You believe that the plant takes in the oxygen and spits out the carbon dioxide? Just like Hashem did that, Hashem appointed Aaron. What? Right. You can't argue on that, right? So too. He could have picked anything in the world. He could have picked any natural phenomenon. He could have picked. Why is Moshe Rabbeinu picking on day and night? Right? Why is he picking on day and night? Okay. And then we find the Gemara in Bava Basra, Daf Ayin Daled Amud Aleph. And this Gemara talks about different adventures of Rabbi Bar Chana and a certain Arab merchant. And the Arab merchant took Rabbi Bar Chana on a trip, and he said, would you like to see where Korach is swallowed? Okay? Amar le ta achvilach beluei de Korach. Come, let me show you where Korach is swallowed. So Chazoi, he saw, Trey busy, 2 cracks, Vahavaka mifki kutra, it was emanating smoke. So what did Rabbi Bar Chana do? Shakal gevava, the amr, he took shearings of wool. The amshina b'maya, he soaked it in water. Uda atzisa b'roisha derumcha, he stuck it on the head of a spear. Va'aylei hasam, he stuck it into the ground. He wanted to see where the smoke was coming from. He didn't want to put a wood stick in, maybe it would catch on fire. So he made sure to soak the tip with water. V'chiapik, when he removed the stick, it was singed. Amar li, so the Arab said to him, Atzis, listen, mashamat, listen to what you hear. And Rabbi Bar Chana heard v'shamat, dehava amrin, Moshe, the Torah emes, Moshe and his Torah is true, v'hein badoin, and we are liars. And the Arab explained, you should know, this is like Old Faithful. Right? This is one of the best tourist attractions in the world. And so Rabbi Glatstein knew how often does Korach shout this? Amar li kol tlasin yoimei mahadir lahu gehenim lahacha. Every 30 days Gehenim kicks him up to this part of the earth. Kibasar bekalachas, like a piece of flanken in the cholent. Right? When the cholent's really boiling, everything's stirring, mixing around, and things are mixing and flying around. Every 30 days, Korach surfaces to this area. V'amri hachi says Azoi, Moshe b'sayrasei emes, v'hein badoin. Every 30 days. So, that doesn't really help us, because if we don't know exactly what day he surfaces, we can't really schedule our itinerary to be there on that day. Otherwise, it's very expensive to go to Eretz Yisrael or for 30 days shur to the Midbar. You can't really hang out in the Sinai desert for 30 days. It reaches something like 122 degrees over there in the Sinai desert. So you want to know exactly, when. So the Gemara doesn't say. Says the Rashbam, Kol Tlos and Yoimin, Kol Rosh Chodesh. Every Rosh Chodesh, Korach resurfaces, and he says, Moshe, Emes, Arosai Emes, Vanu Badon. Right? What niggin he uses, I don't know. You'll have to see, that's why you need to go. Right? So the question is, why does Korach Dafka say this on Rosh Chodesh? Why Dafka Rosh Chodesh? It's not like there's on Rosh Chodesh they let him out of Gehenim. He's still in Gehenim, right? He's saying he's in the fire, he's in the pot, and he's been kicked back and forth. Why Dafka Rosh Chodesh? B'chlal, let's try to understand. The whole episode of Korach is a little bit incomprehensible, or very incomprehensible. Korach was at Har Sinai. He's a Mammon B'Torah. He saw the Nisim of Mitzrayim. He saw Matan Torah. Well, if he saw Matan Torah, he was around in Parshas Tzav. Does anybody know what happened in Parshas Tzav? In Parshas Tzav, Hashem tells Moshe Rabbeinu, take Aaron, take his sons, smear him with the Shem and HaMishcha, bring the Karbanos, gather everyone to the Pesach Hayom Mayid. It's in number 6, Vayikra Perek Ches, Pasuk Gimel. Hakel al Pesach Hayom Mayid. Rashi asks, but not everybody fits in the Pesach Hayom Mayid. I mean, did you know how big the Hayom Mayid is? It's not so big. We're not talking about the Beis Din, we're talking about the Mishkan. 3 million Jews do not fit. I guarantee you 1 million Jews don't fit. And I'm quite certain you can't even get 10,000 Jews there. In the Hayom Mayid, do the math. You see how big it is. They don't fit, even if 3 are standing on each other's heads. So you don't even get 10,000. You didn't let alone 1 million or 3 million. Says Rashi, this is one of the times that a small area could fit a large area, right? I mean, could you get even 500 people into this room? You can't. Could you get 10,000? So imagine, I think it's about the size of this room, you get the entire Klal Yisrael. It's impossible. It was a Nes Nigla. And why did Hashem perform the Nes Nigla? So that everybody should know that Aaron being appointed was not Moshe Rabbeinu's concoction. It wasn't Moshe Rabbeinu's Chas Hashem nepotism. It wasn't he's keeping it in the family. Rebbe Shalom told him to appoint Aaron. And the proof is, look at this tremendous miracle, something the likes of which you've never seen. Vayas Moshe Kashatziva Hashem. Moshe did that. And Vatikohel Eda. The Eda was there, Al Pesach HaYomayid. And Moshe gives the following drasha. Zeh hadavar asher tziva Hashem. That's it, the end of the drasha. People applauded, that's all they needed to hear. That was the end of the drasha. No, they didn't, less than a minute. Says Rashi, what was Moshe saying? Zeh hadavar. Dvarim shetiru shani oisa lefnechem. Whatever you see I'm doing, tzivani hakadosh baruch hu lasos. God commanded me. Don't say I'm doing it to keep it in the family. And it doesn't say the next pasuk. No, Korach was there that day, and he saw one of the greatest miracles in history, that the entire Klal Yisrael fit in a small area. So what's Korach thinking? He wasn't stupid. Korach was the Pikeach. So what did he think? The Rebbe Shalom just made a Nes Nigla to endorse the appointment of Aaron HaKohen. What was Korach thinking? I mean, he had to have an angle. He had to have some kind of, right, sheker. Any sheker that doesn't stand on a grain of truth can't stand. Sheker, but it has to have some kernel of truth. And okay, so maybe his kids will do tshuva like they did. I mean, here Hashem turned over the world to endorse the appointment of Aaron. Furthermore, Moshe Rabbeinu sets up the Mishkan. He does the Avodah, and every day Klal Yisrael is surrounding the Mishkan, and guess what they're doing? They're looking up. What are they looking at? The cloud. Moshe, excuse me, what you did today, it didn't work. Remember, God said that when you do the Avodah, the cloud's going to come down, and they're sitting there with their binoculars, their telescopes, everyone's looking. When's the cloud going to come down? And Moshe said, look, I'm just following directions. And he did the Avodah the first day, and he did the Avodah the second day, and he did the Avodah the third day, and the fourth, and the fifth, and the sixth, and the seventh, and then in Parsha Shmini it says, Vayavoy Moshe bi'aroin Eloy Mayed, Vayetzu, Vayevarchu es ha'am. Vayera kivoid Hashem el kol ha'am, and only after Aaron did the Avodah did the Shechina come down. So even when Moshe Rabbeinu was unsuccessful in accomplishing, Aaron HaKohen accomplished. If you look in number 8, by the way, today's Shiur, the same idea is found in 2 sources: the Bar Yosef, Rav Yosef Sisalant, and the Sefer Sam Derech, who is Rav Simcha Zisel Broida, the Rosh Yeshiva of Hebron, the Chatzak Levracha. He points out, he quotes Rashi. Look in the end of number 8. He quotes Rashi: "Lefi shekol shivas yimei hamiluim," all the 7 days. Shehemidai Moshe lemishkan, that Moshe set up the Mishkan, v'shimesh bay, and he served in it, uparka, and he took it apart, b'chol yom lo sharsa bay shchina. V'ha Yisrael nichlomim. Klal Yisrael were embarrassed, they were ashamed, they were humiliated. V'aymer l'Moshe, Moshe Rabbeinu, kol ha'toyrach shetarachnu shetishra shchina beinenu v'neda shezgav lano egel. What's going to be? Does God forgive us or not? Does Rebbe Hashem forgive us or not? Says Moshe, Zeh hadavar asher tziva Hashem. Aroin achi kedai v'choshuv mimeni. I can't do it. Sorry. I'm not capable of doing it. Aaron is more important than me. He's greater than me. And the reason why it's dafka him that's going to bring down the Shekhinah is why? Because, so you should know, that I didn't appoint him, it wasn't my decision, it wasn't my preference, it was the Rebbe Shem told me. And Korach was there that day, and Korach could have said, hey, wait a second, let me give it a shot. But he wouldn't dare to do that. He was smart enough not to do that. He understood that if Moshe Rabbeinu can't do it, there's no way I could do it. And if Aaron HaKohen is the only Jew who could bring down the Shekhinah on the Mishkan, that means God must have appointed him. So what's going through his head exactly when he challenges Moshe? Moshe, you made this up. You wanted to keep it in the family. You were afraid, I don't know what. You were afraid that maybe Aaron would want your job, so you gave him the Kahuna Gedolah. What was going through Korach's mind? And another thing. Remember, 6th day of Sivan? Moshe Rabbeinu goes up to Har Sinai, and Hashem says, Moshe, come here. Moshe, I want to have a word with you. And Hashem speaks to Moshe, panim el panim. And what were the rest of Klal Yisrael doing at Kabbalas HaTorah? We were sitting downstairs waiting. Moshe, let us know what happens. The Ramban says, and this is one of the fundamental principles of Emunah, and the Rambam writes in the Yad HaChazaka, look at number 9, Vayomer Hashem el Moshe, Hine anoichi ba'elecha, I will come to you ba'av he'anon, in the thickness of the cloud. Ba'avur yishma ha'am v'dabri imach, so the people could hear and listen when I speak to you. V'gam b'cha ya'aminu la'olam, and they will believe in you forever. And the Ramban explains, V'hanochein be'enai, what does it mean, ani ba'elecha ba'av he'anon? Shetigash ata el ha'arafel, look in the bold words. You will approach the thick cloud, ba'avur yishma ha'am devari, so that the people could hear my words, V'yiyu heim atzmam neviim b'dvarai, and every Jew will be a prophet, that every Jew saw b'nevuah, Ribbono Shel Olam, the Borei Olam, speaking to Moshe Rabbeinu. Lo sheyaminu mipi acherim. Nobody told us that Hashem spoke to Moshe. Moshe didn't relay that Hashem spoke to him. Every single last Jew was elevated to the status of a prophet to be able to see through Nevuah, Ribbono Shel Olam speaking to Moshe Rabbeinu. That is the fundamental tenet of Judaism. That every Jew was an eyewitness to communication between the Ribbono Shel Olam and Moshe Rabbeinu. That means Korach was there. Korach didn't go up to Har Sinai. Korach was elevated to be a Navi, and he saw the Ribbono Shel Olam say, Moshe, come here. I want to have a word with you. Moshe goes up, and every Jew is watching through Nevuah Hashem speak to Moshe Rabbeinu. So that means Korach understands there's only one person selected for the task of being the Noisei HaTorah, and that's Moshe Rabbeinu. He didn't hear it from anybody. He didn't hear it from his father. He saw it with his own eyes. So when Moshe Rabbeinu then comes in front of all of Klal Yisrael and says, look, Ribbono Shel Olam told me, I mean, when Moshe came down and said, we're tzitzis, did Korach wear tzitzis? Yeah. And when Moshe Rabbeinu came down and said to Klal Yisrael, keep Shabbos, did Korach keep Shabbos? You bet. Because he saw Ribbono Shel Olam tell Moshe Rabbeinu. So when Moshe Rabbeinu comes and says, Ribbono Shel Olam told me to appoint Aaron, it doesn't say anywhere that Korach had psychological issues. He was a tzaddik, he was a pikeach, he was a chacham. What in the world was going through Korach's mind? He was an eyewitness to Kabbalas HaTorah. He was an eyewitness that all of Klal Yisrael fit in the Oyel Moed. He was an eyewitness that only Aaron HaKohen was able to bring the Shekhinah down from Shemayim. What was Korach thinking? By the way, there is a Gemara in Masechta Nedarim and Masechta Sanhedrin. The Gemara Nedarim is Lamed Tes Amud Beis. Masechta Sanhedrin, Kuf Yud Amud Aleph. There's a pasuk in Chavakuk. It says in Chavakuk, Shemesh Yareach Omad Zavula. What does this mean? The Gemara asks, the sun and the moon is not in the Zavul, the sun and the moon is in the Rakiah. Says the Gemara, during Korach's argument, the sun and the moon said to Ibn Shalom, sorry, we're done. We're out, we quit. We've been working hard, day and night, rain or shine, for a very long time. We retire. This Rasha, Korach, is going to challenge the Moshe Rabbeinu's greatness. That's it. If you let this happen, we're out. We're finished. Find somebody else to do the job. We had enough. Until Hashem had to shoot them with arrows. Said, 1 second. You have Ovdei Avodah Zarah bow down to you, and that you're good with? So you don't care about my honor, you only care about Moshe Rabbeinu's honor? Hashem started shooting arrows at the sun and the moon, and the sun and the moon had no choice, they couldn't retire. It was a lifetime contract. Ask the Ber Yosef, who told the sun and the moon to stick their nose into Machlokes Moshe Rabbeinu and Korach? What would they care less? Why are they getting involved in Riv She'ena Shalahem? Why are they getting involved in an argument that they have nothing to do with? Why do they care if Korach starts up with Moshe Rabbeinu? By the Ched HaMeraglim, they say, Banisham, you're going to let these 10 Risham spoil Klal Yisrael's entry into Eretz Yisrael. So that's it. We're finished. If they spoil, we're not going to shine for them in the Midbar. Do you find anywhere, Klal Yisrael many times sinned against Moshe Rabbeinu. The Gemara says that when Moshe Rabbeinu would go early to the Beis Medrash, the Jews would say, what's he going so early for? Well, he can't get along with his wife that he has to go to shul early. And when he would come late, he'd say, what's going on? Why is he late? And they would look, how much is he eating? Right? The pasuk says, "Vayabitu acharei Moshe Rabbeinu." Why didn't the sun and the moon say, what disgusting things to say? That's it, we're out, we're finished, we're not going to shine anymore. You don't find anywhere in history where the sun and the moon threatened to quit, except by the Machlokes Korach against Moshe Rabbeinu. Why dafka the Machlokes? Why dafka in this juncture? And furthermore, does anybody know what happened to Korach and his 250 men? Even though it says it in the Chumash, almost nobody knows. Right. No, it doesn't say that in the Torah. Only Korach and his friends were swallowed up. The 250, there's a fire. The fire consumed them. And then that was a pretty impressive show, right? Here they started with Moshe Rabbeinu. All of a sudden, the ground opens up. They had Korach and his kids and his cohorts, they go down. 250 men are destroyed instantly. If you were around there and you were unsure what to do, you would be like, sittering, you'd be shaking in your boots. What did Klal Yisrael do? They complained. They said, Moshe Rabbeinu, you're a murderer. Atem hamitem es am Hashem. What are you doing? Why'd you kill them? Do you believe in God? Moshe killed them? Well, what kind of taina is that? Klal Yisrael has a taina on Moshe Rabbeinu that he killed the people? Who's Moshe Rabbeinu? He's a magician? And then all of a sudden, what put it to rest? Moshe Rabbeinu takes 12 sticks and they grow blossoms. Oh, that's it, Moshe Rabbeinu, you're right. What? The ground opens up. It like a mouth. It's shot, right? It's selective. I'll take this guy. I'll take that guy. That guy I don't like. It doesn't taste good. The ground says, the other guy, I don't like the toppings. I like this guy. Looks like a Geshmak Yid. I'll eat him, not him. People are not impressed. A fire comes down, consumes the 250 pinklach, those guys. No one's impressed. And Moshe Rabbeinu takes a little stick, and it grows flowers. I mean, you could probably buy a kit like that in the store, magic, right, with the stick growing flowers. That was impressive. I mean, it's a little strange how the greatest show on earth, not impressed. And some little stick show, that all of a sudden, that's impressive. If you look later on in the Parsha, Moshe Rabbeinu says, Vayomer Moshe bezois teidun ki Hashem shlachani la'asos es kol hamasim ha'ela ki loy milivi. Double lashon. Bezois teidun ki Hashem shlachani. This proves Hashem sent me. Kiloi milibi. It's not my idea. That's repetitive. Once Moshe Rabbeinu says this proves that Hashem sent me, obviously it wasn't from his own heart. Comes Rav Simcha Zisol and comes the Bar Yosef, and they bring up one of the most astounding inyanim, unbelievable thing. The Gemara says in Masechta Shabbos, there were 3 innovations of Moshe Rabbeinu that Hashem was maskim with. Look at number 12. One is Hoisif, right? The Tanya. Gimel Dvarim Asa Moshe Midaitoi. 3 things Moshe did on his own. V'hiskim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Imai. And God endorsed. Number 1, Hoisif Yom Echad Midaitoi. Hashem was ready to give the Torah on the 50th day of the Omer. Here Moshe, he's about to come down to Hashem, is about to come down to Har Sinai, give us Torah mitzvahs. Moshe Rabbeinu said, you know what? We're not really ready yet. Would you mind coming back tomorrow? Hashem said, okay, you're right, Moshe, good idea. You know what? Tomorrow is a better day. Number 2, Upiresh min Aisha. He separated from his wife, and Hashem said, I endorse it. And Moshe broke the luchais, and Hashem endorsed that. Ashar shibarta, yasher koichacha, sheshibarta. Now, when did Hashem endorse Moshe Rabbeinu's decision to separate from his wife? After Kabbalas HaTorah, we know that before the Torah was given, everyone had to separate from their spouse, right, for 3 days. And then after Kabbalas HaTorah, Hashem gave a command, Shuvu lachem, lo alechem, return to your tents. But Moshe v'ata, but you, poi amoid imadi, you stay with me. So Hashem endorsed Moshe Rabbeinu's decision to separate from his wife. Ready? Listen carefully. Ask Tosfos in Masechta Shabbos, wait a second. How do you know Moshe decided on his own to separate from his wife and then Hashem endorsed it? Maybe Hashem just told him, separate from your wife, and Moshe Rabbeinu listened. Where do we see any indication that Moshe Rabbeinu did it on his own and then Hashem endorsed it? Maybe Hashem just told him and he listened. Where do you see anywhere in the Chumash that Moshe Rabbeinu was sitting one day and a light bulb went off? You know what? It's been a nice marriage, but forget it. Let's call it quits. You find anywhere that? No. All you find is Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu, you stay with me. So maybe that's all there was. Maybe Hashem just told him, you stay with me. And Moshe Rabbeinu never came up with the idea. Says Tosfos, that can't be. Says Rabbeinu Tam, obviously Moshe did it on his own. Why? Because we know that Miriam and Aharon spoke Lashon Hara about Moshe Rabbeinu. And what was the Lashon Hara? Who does Moshe think he is to separate from his spouse? Hashem speaks to us also, and he never told us to separate from our spouse. Who does our brother think he is? What does he think? He's a God. What does he think? He's Moshe Rabbeinu or something? Who does he think he is? Now, how could Miriam and Aharon speak Lashon about Moshe if Moshe Rabbeinu hadn't done it on his own, if Hashem told him to do it? It must be that Moshe did it on his own. Because otherwise Miriam and Aharon would never have spoken Lashon Hara about Moshe Rabbeinu. But ask Tosfos, but if Hashem gave an endorsement to what Moshe Rabbeinu was doing, if Hashem said, Moshe, attaboy, you know, that's what you need to do, you should separate from your spouse, I give you a haskama, Moshe Rabbeinu would walk around, people would ask him, well, what are you doing? What kind of behavior is this? He said, I have a haskama. From who? From the Baisham. Right? It says, Tikasev Zayis, L'chala Olam, Moshe Rabbeinu, Roy, right? Fine. He had a beautiful Tu'udah. So then, why are Miriam and Aharon speaking Lashon about Moshe Rabbeinu if Hashem endorsed his decision to separate from his wife? Comes Tosfos and he says one of the biggest chidushim you'll ever hear. Says Tosfos, Moshe Rabbeinu on his own came up with the idea to separate from his spouse. And there's a rule in this world, B'derech sha'adam roitza leilech, melichan I say. Whatever path you choose in life, the Rebbe Shalom leads you on your chosen path. You know why Hashem endorsed Moshe's decision to separate from his wife? Because Moshe wanted it. But how could Miriam and Aharon speak Lashon Hara about Moshe, but Hashem endorsed it? Of course Hashem endorsed it. Hashem endorses what people want to do. So their indictment of Moshe Rabbeinu was, Moshe, you wanted the wrong thing. Of course Hashem let you do it, and Hashem told you you're right. You're right, Hashem told you you're right, because you wanted to separate from your spouse. You shouldn't have wanted that. If you would have wanted to do the right thing, the Rebbe Hashem never would have told you, you know what, good. you're saying good. Says Tosfos, there's a rule. You know why Hashem endorsed Moshe Rabbeinu's decision? Because Moshe wanted to separate from his wife incorrectly, inappropriately, wrongly, and that's why Hashem endorsed it. And their Lashon Hara was, yeah, of course, they're saying to each other, look, of course Rebbe Hashem endorsed it. He loves Moshe. He endorses everything he says. But Moshe Rabbeinu shouldn't have wanted it. If deep down he would have wanted the real Ratzon of Hashem, Hashem never would have led him in that path. So what do you see from here? That not everything that Hashem does is necessarily the ideal, what Hashem really wants. Sometimes Hashem allows himself to be forced by tzaddikim. Tzaddikim have the power, so to speak, to manipulate Hashem. Tzaddikim have the power to desire for their own agenda, and the Rebbe Hashem will, so to speak, go along with it. Like we see that Miriam and Aharon spoke Lashon Hara about Moshe Rabbeinu. Why? But Hashem endorsed it. But their taina was, Moshe twisted Hashem's arm. So says the Ber Yosef, that exactly was Korach's taina on Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe, you're the Gadol Hadar, you're the Tzaddik Hadar, you're the greatest man who ever lived. And we know, and I saw you, Moshe, when you were on Har Sinai, I became a Navi and I saw God speaking to you. And when Aaron did the Avodah on the 8th day, we saw the fire come down from heaven. And we saw 3 million people fit into that small little oil mayit. And we know God selected Aaron. Korach said, of course Hashem selected Aaron. Of course Hashem wanted Aaron. But Hashem wanted Aaron because you wanted Aaron. But if you would have been perfectly honest and perfectly level-headed and perfectly objective, you would have selected me. But because you had feelings of nepotism and you had personal desire here, Hashem endorsed Aaron because you wanted Aaron. And my tainut against you, Moshe Rabbeinu, says Korach, is you're abusing your power as Gadol Hadar. You're manipulating Hashem. You know, a tzaddik could twist Hashem's arms. Tzaddik goizer, Hashem mekayim. Someone once came to the Chavetz Chaim. Said, Chavetz Chaim, give him a bracha for this, give him a bracha for that. After all, tzaddik goizer, Hashem mekayim. Chavetz Chaim said, I prefer to do Hashem goizer v'ani mekayim. Right? I prefer to let the Ribbon Hashem run the world, not twist Hashem's arm. Says Korach, Moshe Rabbeinu, you're abusing your right as Manig Yisrael. Of course, Hashem, I don't have any time. Moshe Rabbeinu, I don't question you. Hashem wanted Aaron. The cloud came down from heaven for Aaron. Everyone fit into the oil mud for Aaron. But you know why Hashem wants Aaron? Hashem wanted it because you wanted it. And you shouldn't have wanted it. You should have been true. You should have been honest. You should have wanted what's best for Klal Yisrael, not what's best for you. So what does Korach do? Korach says, you don't believe me that you could twist Hashem's arm? I'll prove to you how you could twist Hashem's arm. I'm going to bring in the team of Talmidei Chachamim that specialize in twisting the arm of God. And that is the Talmidei Chachamim who know how to intercalate the months and the years. Because when it comes to this area of halacha, it doesn't matter if they're right or wrong. It doesn't matter if it's a new month or not. It doesn't matter if it's a new year. Even if they're making a mistake, even if the mistake is intentional, God goes along with it. Right? We all know the story about the two Eidim that came in and saw the new moon on the 30th of the month. And on the 31st, they didn't see the new moon anymore. So Rabbi Doisa ben Horkinas, this is probably one of the most famous Gemaras in Shas, it's the Mishnah Rosh Hashanah number 15. Rabbi Doisa ben Horkinas said, they're obviously liars. How could you see the new moon one day and the next day it's not there anymore? The moon only gets bigger and bigger. Right? The analogy is, how could you see a woman give birth and the next day she's pregnant? That's what the Gemara says. And Rabbi Gamliel accepted them, because Gamliel held maybe it was a cloudy day the next day. And Rabbi Doisa ben Horkinas went to Rabbi Yeshua, and Rabbi Yeshua said, I agree with you. It doesn't make any sense. So Gamliel said, you agree with him? Well, let's see. You come to me on the day that you say is Yom Kippur according to your cheshbon. You come to me with your money belt and with your stick and I want you to be mechalel your Yom Kippur b'far Hesia. Rabbi Shua didn't know what to do, so he goes to Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva finds that he's very troubled, he's very mournful. Rabbi Akiva says, don't sweat it. The pasuk says, Eila moyadei Hashem mikra'ei kodesh asher tikru oisam. The word oisam is spelled without a vav. It says oisam 3 times. The Gemara darshans, atem, atem, atem. Atem afilu shoigigin, the Gemara says later. Atem afilu mazidim. Atem afilu mutan. It really doesn't matter why the Beis Din made the mistake, even if they made the mistake wrongly. If they intentionally make a mistake and proclaim Rosh Chodesh the wrong day, Yom Kippur will be when they say Yom Kippur is, not when it really is Yom Kippur. In other words, Hashem says, I allow my hands to be tied based on whatever the Beis Din says. That's the one area in halacha where the halacha is completely subject to whatever the whims of the Beis Din. By the way, to the point where even nature is dependent on what the Beis Din says. I'll give you a perfect analogy. The halacha is, and this is what the Gemara says, the Metzius is, that a basula, if the basulim were broken before the age of 3, the Gemara says the basulim come back. Right? It's a rule in Masechta Ksubas, that basulim that are broken before age 3 grow back. Well, what if a girl is 3 and 10 days, and her basulim are broken? It won't grow back. What if Beis Din then comes and says, oh, wait a second, it's an Ibriyar, so she's not 3 yet? So then it will grow back. What? What is her, what? How does the reality of her biological makeup change based on whether the Beis Din says, this year we need an extra month or not? I mean, it's just a matter of convenience. Because they throw in an extra month, so now the basulim will grow back. And if they didn't throw in the extra month, the basulim won't grow back. What you're going to say, her body is dependent on exactly on the whimsical decision of the Beis Din? Yes. Hashem has given over not just the halacha, but the reality of the physical phenomenon to whatever Beis Din says. So of all areas of halacha, the ones where the Rebbeinu Shalom stands by like a bystander and says, whatever you say, it's up to you, more than any other area is Kiddush HaChodesh. So Korach says, Moshe Rabbeinu, you don't think you could manipulate God? You don't think you could force His hand? Vayakumu l'fnei Moshe v'anoshim Yisrael kriyei moyed shoyu yoidim la'aber shonim. These guys were the experts and the masters in twisting the arms of Hashem. Korach said, if these guys could do it, Moshe Rabbeinu, you could definitely do it. Korach Davka called on the kriyei moyed. Says Moshe Rabbeinu, you got it wrong. Wrong analogy. This is not like the months and the years. Let's say Beis Din comes and paskins. It's night now. Right now it's night. Is it night? After all, Beis Din paskins. Hashem said, Atem, Atem, Atem. Well, let's say Beis Din paskins at 11 o'clock tonight. We paskin today. Everyone put on your tefillin. Is that a psak? It's not a psak. Beis Din has no authority of day and night. Day and night is immutable. It doesn't change. It can't be manipulated. Day and night is absolute. God says when it's day. God says when it's night. God doesn't say when the month is. God doesn't say when the year is. But He says Yom V'Layla. Moshe says you're making a mistake. You know what this is like? Boiker v'yoyda Hashem es hashaloi. Wrong analogy. This is not like months. This is not like years. This is like day and night. Look at Rashi number 3. Boiker Omer lahem Moshe Gevulois cholak HaKadosh Baruch Hu ba'olamai. God made boundaries in this world. Could you turn day and night? You Sanhedrin, you Kriyei Moyed, you people who know how to change the month and the year, could you tamper and manipulate the day? You can't touch the day. Vayi'era, vayivoiker, vayavdel. God determines day and night, so too God determines who the Kohen is. So this is like the battle of the heavens. Moshe Rabbeinu is using the sun for his argument. Korach is using the moon for his argument. So what do the sun and the moon say? This evil Rasha, Korach, is trying to use us for his argument. He's trying to say, the sun and the moon say, Korach is invoking our ability to his side to prove that Moshe Rabbeinu manipulated Hashem. That's it. We're out of here. We're not going to work anymore. We're not going to shine anymore. This Rasha Korach, he's using us. He's relying on us for his argument. That's it. We're out. We're out. It's one thing the Meraglim. It's one thing all the other Chatam Klal Yisrael did. We have nothing to do with that. We're not at fault. They're not abusing us for their Chatam. But now Korach is abusing the sun and the moon. That's it, they say. We're not going to shine anymore. We're out. We quit. Says the Bar Yosef, an unbelievable thing. That is why, when is Korach punished and he resurfaces, Moshe emes v'seirasei emes. He doesn't do it every day, and he doesn't do it every night. He does it every Rosh Chodesh, on the day that he tried to use as the proof that Moshe Rabbeinu is manipulating God. We say, Korach, you need to admit that you're just a negia, you're somebody who has a personal agenda, because you have to admit, on the day that you try to invoke to prove your side of the argument, that is the day that you need to declare before everybody, Moshe emes, v'seirasei emes. That is why Korach, says Bar Yosef, resurfaces every Rosh Chodesh dafka. Did Korach see Aaron being selected by the cloud? Yes. Did Korach see Moshe Rabbeinu on Har Sinai? Yes. Did Korach admit that God appointed Aaron? Absolutely. Korach's taina was God appointed Aaron because Moshe wanted Aaron to be appointed. But if his heart was pure, if he would have had the best interest in Klal Yisrael in mind, Rebbeinu Shem never would have been maskim to his unauthentic desires. You know who else says what I'm telling you today? It's found in the Orach Chaim HaKadosh. It says Orach Chaim HaKadosh on the pasuk, Bezois Teidon ki Hashem shalachani la'asos es kol ha'maasim ha'ila ki loy milibi. Says Orach Chaim HaKadosh. What exactly is the double lashon? Look at number 17. Sarch lidas. Eich yachshov Moshe la'am Hashem. How could Moshe accuse the nation of God? What did Moshe think? Moshe thought they didn't believe in him? And what's the double lashon of Kiloi Milibi? Says Orach Chaim HaKadosh that Moshe Rabbeinu suspected that since he was Matzachein Be'inei Hashem, so then whenever he would want to appoint one of his relatives to give kahuna to Aaron, to give nesius to Elitzaphan, he would do that. He would say, Ribbanu Shalom, here, my vote is for him. You agree? And Hashem say, yeah, whatever you want, Moshe. You know I love you. Whatever you want. Right? Hashem would give him. But then Moshe Rabbeinu thought, you know what? Maybe the Klal Yisrael is even more sophisticated. I would never have the gumption to go to Hashem and say, okay, here are this year's appointments. This year I'm going to go with him. This is going here. Just sign over here. And Moshe Rabbeinu says, your company anyway. I gave it to you. No. Moshe suspected that Klal Yisrael thought that he was such a tzaddik that whoever he would want in the deep recesses of his heart, that's what Hashem would tell him. In other words, Moshe maybe thought, you know what, Klal Yisrael would never suspect me of actively campaigning for my brother, but maybe they think that whatever I want in the deep recesses of my heart, Hashem would go along with. So therefore, Moshe Rabbeinu says, Bezois Teidon ki Hashem sholachani. This is the proof that Hashem sent me, and not that I endorsed and I campaigned for these people and Hashem was masking. And if you're going to suspect, well, maybe it's not like that, maybe it's just this is what I wanted, this will prove kiloi milibi. It wasn't even in my heart. I didn't even want Aaron. My heart is so pure. The interest of Klal Yisrael is my only desire that I didn't even want Aaron. If you would look into my heart now with a microscope, you wouldn't even find the slightest inclination that, you know what? It would really be nice if we kept the Kuna Gedoyel in the family. That wasn't in Moshe's heart. In Moshe's heart was, whatever is best for Klal Yisrael. What happens? Korach is swallowed, the men are swallowed, and the other 250 guys burn. And you know what Klal Yisrael said? Exactly! We told you whatever you want Hashem does. Moshe Rabbeinu, you're just making matters worse. Look how much Hashem loves you. That anyone who starts up with you, he just wiped out immediately. God would never do that on his own. He's a kel racham machana. You think God would ever on his own just wipe out people and kill them with fire? In your heart, you must really are really bothered by the challenge to your authority, and you probably daven to Hashem, Hashem wipe them out. And therefore, Korach's demise and his unusual death did not prove anything. But when Moshe Rabbeinu says, when Moshe Rabbeinu says, and he gets word from God, everyone put their staff in, and their staff will sprout, will flourish. And he tells the people, okay, every shevet should put in their staff, and whoever is the right man, their staff will flourish. So Klal Yisrael says, okay, that's what Moshe Rabbeinu told God, whoever's staff. But what happened to Aaron's staff? V'hinei parach mate Aaron. V'yatze tzitz. It made flowers. V'yigmo shkedim. It produced almonds. Moshe Rabbeinu never asked for that. Moshe Rabbeinu never davened for that. Hashem never even told him that would happen. So Klal Yisrael sees already that it's not just Moshe's desires being fulfilled by God. Hashem is running the show completely. This is all the Ratzon of Hashem. It's not Moshe Rabbeinu davening for a specific thing to happen. It's not Moshe Rabbeinu wanting something and manipulating God. This is completely and authentically the Ratzon of Hashem. And therefore comes the Rebbe, the Chassam Sofer, the Hafla, and he says, now we understand perfectly the punishment of Korach. You know why Korach was swallowed by the ground? There's a similar punishment we find in Chazal, that the Gemara says in Masechta Shabbos, Kuf Hei Amud Beis, Kol ha-mis'atzel behespedoi shel chacham, roi l'kavroi b'chayim. Anyone who's negligent and lazy in eulogizing a Talmid Chacham properly, he should be swallowed alive. Similar to what happened to Korach. By the way, there's a story about the Chassam Sofer. Chassam Sofer was once in the mineral baths, in the historical mineral baths. The Square Rebbe, I think, still goes to the...
Carlsbad.
In Carlsbad. There are other ones in Marienbad. And one time, he was in the mineral baths, and all of a sudden the gates and the doors of the mineral bath locked on him. And, if you get stuck in there with the steam and the heat he thought it was going to be the end. So like at Tzaddik, he starts doing a cheshbon hanefesh. The Gemara says, anyone who is mis'atzel in eulogizing a Talmid Chacham, roi l'kavroi b'chayev, he should be buried alive. It seems like he's about to be buried alive. Somebody must have passed away and he didn't eulogize properly. And in fact, one of the Gedolei Hador of David Deitch, who the Rabbi Yehuda has many correspondence with, Rabbi Yehuda says about him, Adam Sofer says about him, Adam Kasha Kebarzel, of David Deitch. And they didn't tell the Chassam Sofer, so he was makabel on himself. As soon as he comes out, he's going to find out which Talmid Chacham passed away, and he's going to give a eulogy. And miraculously, the door is open, and he found out Rav David Deitch passed away, and he was maspid him Korach. But you see that for not being maspid a Talmid Chacham, the punishment is misas Korach. Why is this the punishment? Says the Rebbe, the Chassam Sofer, the Hafla. We know there's a famous contradiction raised by the Medrash Tanchuma, Parshas Noach, the Authenticating Balei HaTosfos. When Hashem offers the Torah to Klal Yisrael, they say, Nasa v'nishma. On the other hand, the Gemara in Shabbos Peiches, Vayisyatzu, P'tachta Sahara, Omer Rabbi Chama Bar Chasa, right? Melamed Shekaf Aleim Har Kegigas. Hashem suspended the mountain over their head like a barrel. He said, Makablim Muta V'imlav, Sham Teik V'rascham. You're going to be buried alive. Did Klal Yisrael accept it willingly, or do they have to be forced? So what's the famous answer of the Medrash? For denying the written law, for the written law of the Torah Shabbat, they accepted willingly. But the Chachmei Yisrael, the Torah Shabbat Peh, they had to be forced into. And what's the punishment for not being Mekabel Torah Shabbat Peh? Kafa Aleim Har Kegigas, you're buried alive. What was Korach doing? Did Korach believe in Torah Shabbat? Absolutely. What Korach did not believe in was the purity and the authenticity of the Torah Shabbat Peh. He questioned the motives of Moshe Rabbeinu. He questioned the heart of Moshe Rabbeinu. And therefore, what's the punishment of Korach? The Kafa Aleim Har Kegigas was given to Korach, and that's why the Gemara says, someone who's mis'atzel be'aspedoi shel chacham roi l'kavroi b'chayim. And this is ultimately the midah keneged midah. Korach denied the purity, the taras halev of the Chachmei Yisrael, and therefore he was punished with v'kafa aleim har kegigas. Rabbi Say, have a wonderful day.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.